Welcome to the CDI CTO Podcast presented by CDI Studios.
Hello, welcome everyone to this episode of the CDI Office of the CTO Podcast. I'm Brian Kennedy. I'm our divisional CTO for what we call intelligent operations. Hopefully you've seen maybe our Get to Know the CTOs podcast episodes. You learn more about, sort of what I mean by, or what we mean at CDI by intelligent operations, get to know my background a little bit. So if you want, and you haven't, please check that episode out. Today I'm joined by DeAnda from one of our longstanding and really the partner that I'm probably most excited about at CDI, Tanium. Welcome, Dylan. Thank you for joining us. We like to, in this Office of the CTO podcast, we like to keep things pretty casual. So I'd like to start by introducing yourself a bit more on the sort of personal side of things. I learned that you live in Montana and made the trip out here to the New York City area, which I especially appreciate. I know that's not an easy trip to arrange and make. I consider myself very blessed to have been able to travel, a good portion of the world, both for business and pleasure. One of the most absolute awe-inspiring places in the world that I got to spend some time in was Yellowstone National Park. Spent a few weeks there. Absolutely amazing. Probably literally my most favorite place in the world that I've been. But I have to admit, you're the first person I know that actually lives in Montana.
There's only about one person for every 5 square miles.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe you could start there. Tell us a little about what that's like and how long you've been there. What's your take on that part of this great union?
Actually, I stumbled upon Montana. I was living in Amsterdam and working and starting our European division for Tanium, and my boss said, "Hey, I need you to come out to Whitefish, Montana. We're going to do a leadership offsite." Where? And so I'm flying in and landing, and I remembered my cousin lives out there. He's been out there for about 15 years as a builder, and texted him and said, "Hey, what are you doing for lunch today?" And he said, "Oh, I'm going to the boat club." And I said, "Great, I'll meet you there. That's where I'm staying." And he said, "Ha ha ha." And I said, "No, really?" And so
boat club is like a resort.
It's the nice lodge. It's right on the lake. We have a beautiful lake. Mm-hmm. We've got mountains. We've got rivers. Some of the best trout fly fishing in the world. Yep. It's just a gorgeous place to be. It's all natural. And over summer, for about 3 years, we kept going back. And my kids finally said, "We're not leaving." And it's the most beautiful place we've ever lived. And we've lived, as a family all over the world. And this is the most beautiful place. We call it the last best place.
Yeah.
So come visit Montana. Gotcha. I think you'll like it.
Everybody, if you haven't been there, I mean, it is really fabulous. What are the winters like, though?
I had the pleasure of taking my kids snowboarding on a 60 below zero day this year. We made it for about 30, 45 minutes because the wind was howling and every stitch would just scream through with all this cold. The ice changed completely. The snow was very different, but you adapt. You learn layers. And during the summertime, you stay cool in the lakes, wake surfing or paddleboarding at the river.
Cool. Well, all right. Let's turn it to Tanium a bit. When I first arrived at CDI and I started to look at what I could help with and sort of focus on and grow, I had heard of Tanium, but wasn't intimately familiar with it. And I enough things that were going on at CDI sort of excited me about Tanium. I said, hey, I got to immerse myself in this technology a little bit, really understand it a little bit better. And one of the things that sort of resonated with me that is similar to other things I've done in my career, and I know CDI has been really successful with, is looking at these kind of platform-based solutions, not niche point, very focused solutions. Because I think, especially in operations within organizations, we have to sort of focus down on the number of vendors that are in place, and that, every sort of VP of operations that I talk to, inevitably it comes up like we're way too fragmented. We have too many tools, too many vendors that we're dealing with. So I believe in the idea of strategic platforms that you can kind of grow into and can handle multiple use cases. Anything you can say about that idea of a platform for sort of endpoint management and security as Tanium markets it, and a bit about the vision and strategy there?
Well, I think, you hit on the key point, Brian, is that tool sprawl is organic to all organizations. And that's really what a lot of companies struggle with today is I've got so many tools. I've got tools for operations, for patching, for software deployment, for risk and compliance. I've got tools for security, incident response. I've got tools for detect. It goes on, and there's probably multiple flavors. Everyone out there, if the audience were to look on their computer right now, there's probably anywhere from 5 to 15 agents, each doing a very specialized task. And guess what? None of them talk to each other. Right. And all that data is incongruent. And also, you have to support all those tools. And that's specialized technology, specialized skill sets, and people invest their career time in that. But at the end of the day, what we're looking for is an outcome for the business. And making those outcomes happen for those businesses' customers is key. And they all depend on IT to do that. Right. So IT is right in the middle of that storm. And if they've got too many tools that are too expensive, too costly, require too much maintenance, and effectively individually solve one small problem, right, tomorrow there's going to be a new problem. That's another new tool. So as a platform approach, we really said, what if we could become a high-speed pipeline for data, giving it to you in real time, giving you complete visibility and control over every device that you have, everything with a chip out there. And what if it didn't just do one job? Right. What if whatever you could do on that keyboard, you could do across 1 million endpoints in seconds? Yeah. Not only get visibility, but also take control and remediate. Yeah. And that was the vision. Great vision.
Like, I love it. Also not easy to do, right? I mean, that is a technical challenge in a lot of regards, We tend in these podcasts to not necessarily deep dive into particular how, I mean, I love that stuff, right? But some people probably watching do love that stuff too, but we try to keep these things pretty high level. But you guys have a particular approach in making that vision come to life, scale in a scalable and fast way that is unique, right? You guys call it linear chain. When I started really reading about that and understanding, like, what a great idea. Like, I can't believe more stuff doesn't work this way. It's actually relatively simple when you distill it down, but it's amazing. And I've seen it be able to, if I ask a simple question of the platform in production, like, how many devices out there are running this particular patch from Microsoft for this flavor of Windows, whatever it is, whatever my question is. I'm used to going to CMDBs to get that answer, or maybe to some other kind of analytics technologies. And even in those platforms that are kind of optimized to deliver that answer, even though they're going to be maybe 70% accurate if you're lucky, might take some time to render an answer. But in Tanium, I've seen environments 30, 40, 50,000 endpoints where this stuff comes back instantaneously and it's all real time. Anything you could add about linear chain and how awesome it is and what it does? I could go at a high level.
I could go on for hours, but at a very high and simple level, we manage millions of devices. My largest customer has over 3 million devices. And when they want an answer, they can ask a question like, show me all the Windows 10 devices that have less than 10% disk space free, that are running this type of CPU architecture, this motherboard, that are also running this particular process with this hash on there. I can ask that in a natural language query and get those results back in seconds. The way it works is typically, you're dealing with the old hub and spoke architecture is what you've got in the old model. And that was, a single server in the center. And then as you grow, you add relay servers and caching servers and distribution servers. And it grows big and heavy. And also expensive to maintain, and it's slow. So we needed that speed and that scale, right? Speed, scale, and simplicity. So with that, our developers came up with this linear chaining concept, and it's our patented architecture. It's really our secret sauce. So if you think about that old hub and spoke model where everything's got to come through a single server, wipe that off the whiteboard. Now think about this. If we were at a conference and there was 10,000 people in that conference room, and the front office wanted to know everyone's favorite color. So typically, in the old model, the old hub and spoke model, you'd walk around with, a notepad, and you would ask, Brian, what's your favorite color? CDI blue, of course. Right? Dylan, what's your favorite color? Tanium red. So we've got blue, we've got red, we've got green. And then all of a sudden, someone says mauve. So typically you'd start building out this huge list, red, blue, green, purple, mauve, and you'd have this big, huge encyclopedia set of answers, and you'd be walking back to the front desk and drop it on them and say, hey, there you go. There's all your answers. Took me a long time and a lot of weight to carry all this over here, but you got it 3 days later. What if we took a different approach? Imagine, if you will, that you walked into that conference room and you had a little Post-it note and you said, I want to know your favorite color. Blue, red, green, purple, mauve. For every one blue, I just increment that one. And for every red, continue to increment. And so what I'm doing is I'm able to encapsulate all that information into about a 64 KB packet, which is nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's like an ICMP packet. And so instead of going around and carrying all that heavy data back, we are able to basically continue to increment that and send that around in a ring. So I pass that note around to everyone, and they keep passing it until it gets all the way back. And that's why we call it a linear chain. It's a big ring of devices that are connected to each other and sending information all around that chain until it gets to the very last person in that room.
Right.
And then they hand that back to the front desk.
And I mean, I love the analogy, right? It makes it simple to sort of understand, even though it's way more complicated under the covers. But there's things too, like what if someone says, I refuse to tell you my favorite color, right? It's okay, just pass it on, right?
Yeah.
Or like skip past that person and go, just hand it to the next person.
No answer.
Right? No answer. And, you can scale it where you say, well, hey, I want to get this started in these couple of segments of the room, and it's going to move its way faster and sort of eventually work its way back to the center. It's really incredible how it and it's focused on answering the question, like get to the heart of the matter. If I want to know how many devices out there that are specific to this thing, like let's say my real question is, I want to know how many people's favorite color is blue. I don't necessarily care about understanding all the other details,
Correct.
right? So like when somebody says red, like, okay, great, but it's not blue. So like hurry up and move on and just keep what I need to know.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's great.
And by the way, those queries take about 10 to 15 seconds to complete across
it's
hundreds of thousands or even millions of computers.
All real-time communication.
And it doesn't matter how big you grow. In fact, counterintuitively, the bigger the environment is, the faster the response rates are.
Yeah. The other thing that sort of dovetails right into that to me is, and this is a problem that I would say 90+%, if it's not even higher, into the high 90s% of our customers, the problem that they struggle with is sort of asset management, asset discovery, like just knowing what's out there and what the state of things are. I mean, we're big ServiceNow, right? Clearly the leader in the sort of CMDB
Absolutely.
and workflow space. But they've struggled as it relates to, let's say, CMDB, to keep that thing remotely evergreen, right? So earlier I said, well, hey, maybe if you go to your CMDB, you're going to get a 70% accurate answer. So customers look for things that are generally called discovery solutions, right? Asset discovery. You can lean on vuln scanning technology. You can blend data together. I mean, there's a bunch of techniques to sort of really understand, hey, what's out there on my network and what's the state of things. But as I learned more about Tanium, I was like, wow. And I knew that that's a feature in the platform. But I thought, man, how could anything be more accurate in terms of discovery than Tanium if you have it sort of penetrated into your estate? You agree? Anything you could add about discovery and the capabilities there and how good it is in terms of populating a CMDB or being able to give you the same kind of answers that a CMDB would give you?
I'll start fundamentally to say, if you can't see it, you can't manage it. And if you can't manage it, you can't secure it. And if you can't secure it, then the kingdom was lost for the want of a nail.
Yeah, sure.
So, if you look at CIS, the Center for Internet Security, their number one first recommendation that they have, understand your assets, know what you have.
Yep.
And if you can discover all of the devices that are on your network, on every network, even where you may not have the management platform there, that gives you the ability now to start to take inventory. And as a board member or as an executive or a CIO, Your job is to take care of those assets. It's your fiduciary responsibility to take care of those assets and put them to their highest and best use. But if you don't know where a device is, who's using it, or what's on it, then your CMDB is effectively out of date and less useful than you want it to be. So Tanium has a key capability called Discover. And that basically, every endpoint acts like a neighborhood watch. So imagine having neighborhood watch on every single block. And when someone new moves into the neighborhood, it immediately reports on that, sends it back to the server and says, I see a new device, whether it's an IP camera, whether it's an iPhone, a server, a laptop.
It doesn't necessarily have to have a Tanium agent running on it. No, but it saw that there's communication.
And I can tell you what type of device that is. I can tell you where it is, its IP address. I can tell you a lot of information about that. And then we have the ability to go and deploy an agent onto that and get it under full management. So now I can start to take control of it. I can start to remediate any challenges it may have, any missing agents. I mean, think about that. Think about how much organizations spend on all the new security tools or all the new management tools. But if you can only cover 70% of your estate with those tools, you're not fully covered and you're wasting those licensing dollars. So we want to be able to not only discover, but also get everything up to where it should be. So making what is what should be. And you have to be able to discover it first. And then more importantly, we can send that real-time information into ServiceNow with our integration. So we become extremely additive. We become an accelerant, basically. We become gasoline on an already big bonfire. You know, ServiceNow does what they do very well in the CMDB space. We give them the ability now to discover more assets with one agent, the ability to send all that asset information to the CMDB and give you accurate and real-time data,
and then take it to the next level.
Yeah,
right?
that's where security and operations.
You know, not to criticize ServiceNow or any of the other solutions that we support in the space. Like so many of them are focused on discovery. Well, hey, I know there's an IP address out there,
right?
And I think it's this, you know, but like, well, now it's up to that organization to figure out what to go do about it. Whereas the Tanium platform can grow and take the next use case. Like, okay, hey, I know the agent. We've identified it. We know it's Windows. Right, we know how to get to it. So now let's go ahead and put the agent there. And now I can start doing a whole bunch more with it. It's really a great story.
You know, I'll give you a couple of examples or a couple of stories from the field here. I go out and I talk to CIOs and CISOs all the time. And first question I ask them is, how many devices do you have on your network right now?
About
between 250 and 350,000. Okay. So have you ever asked a parent how many kids you have? And they said, between 3 and 5.
That's great.
There's 2 more on the backyard. I don't know where they are.
I'm going to start using it.
And, I've also, been working with large organizations that are doing merger and acquisition sprees and doing a risk assessment, a Tanium risk assessment with them. We were doing the readout with the CIO, and we said, here's your findings, et cetera, and, you've got about 3,000 servers down here in Mexico City that don't have any, management going on. They're missing all these agents. And they said, we don't have a data center in Mexico City. I said, you do? And they said, no, we don't. That was from the acquisition 2 years ago. And the faces just kind of went a little pale. And they had completely forgotten about this unknown data center that was a pocket data center. And that's what folks are dealing with today. So if you can't see it, you can't manage it, can't secure it.
And I love your analogy where, it ends with sort of security, right? Because that's, in all honesty, I think it's still today the sort of biggest priority of so many of our customers. Like that, we have to stay out of the news. We have to stay resilient, and security has become such a dominant part of conversations within IT. I think, and even though I don't specifically have responsibility at CDI here around security, I certainly work with everyone at CDI who does focus on security. On anything that we would say, Felix, the CTO for security here, we would say if it's a SecOps use case, generally we're kind of collaborating, right? Where if it's a more of a security engineering, putting defenses in place, I kind of leave that up to other people. But I'm around it enough that I think there's still confusion in the market around, old school kind of AV, anti-malware kind of solutions, and what's happened with some of those vendors who years ago were sort of saying, oh yeah, I'm the best antivirus agent or solution, and then it grew into EPP, and then people wanted to outsource it, so it got the DRs, right? EDR, MDR. XDR confuses a bunch of people. Could you talk more granular about where Tanium plays a role in security and protecting a client's environment? And like, I think there's also questions about, maybe is there a better together story where, there are certain things that are in the marketplace that Tanium cooperates with really well, or is Tanium a replacement to a lot of the things that people might think of as endpoint security?
I think security is a very sexy topic at face value. A lot of people look from the outside and say, ooh, it seems like there's, stories of ninjas, rappelling in from the skylights and lasers and all these advanced hacking techniques. When in reality, a lot of these, incidents are just smash and grabs. People are just walking by and they see a Rolex in the window and they smash and grab. I really believe that operations is the root of security. It's so important to understand what you have, where it is, who's using it, what's installed on it, what your vulnerabilities are, and being able to determine if you've already been breached. But it all begins with the operations team. If they had effective tools that would allow them to not only deploy solid secured images, maintain compliance, being able to detect when there's a misconfiguration, configuration compliance is incredibly important. But all of these tools are very good at what they do in a very narrow lane. And when you are experiencing incidents, you want to be able to respond quickly. You want to be able to hunt and pivot. There is my background is in military intelligence, and one of the things we always focused on was finding a threat, fixing its location, exploiting it to the most, and then taking that data and analyzing it and disseminating it. And that's the true cycle that our security teams work in, but it's also a collaboration with operations, being able to understand where your vulnerabilities are. For example, you remember the Log4j fun we had.
We all do. Anybody in this business knows.
Yeah, and that is really a tough challenge because there's a software bill of materials from a supply chain concern. What's in that open source supply chain that is vulnerable? If you think about being able to try to find all the libraries that are nested within libraries, that are nested within libraries within libraries, the real challenge there is like walking into a library, a physical library, Library of Congress, and you're looking for two specific words being in the title of a book, and then two specific words on every page of that book. Where are they? And you need to inventory every one of those. It would take you decades to do that. Well, being able to just understand what is and where it is, and then being able to respond to it with whatever remediation techniques, all of those tools are very good at what they do. But I will say that I don't believe there's a more superior technology than Tanium for detecting, for hunting, and for pivoting very quickly. Yeah. And especially in zero-day incidents where you may only have a shred of an indicator of compromise. By being able to identify maybe a target IP or a source IP or a process or a hash or a semaphore or a mutex, being able to detect any of those aspects on a device, it's very difficult to do, and you have to be able to pivot very quickly on that and continue to iterate through that cycle. Those products are more focused on providing signature-based solutions, and oftentimes when there's a 0 day, you have to wait a day, a week, a month for them to come out with those signatures.
I think, first of all, I think you're trying to, no, you're not trying to, but you are warming my heart by saying like so much of security really is an operations challenge. And I agree. Nothing against all the other work that's going on in the cybersecurity space. But I do think operations is a key part of it. The other thing that we talk about a lot at CDI is this idea of detection and response. Like so many people are saying that word in so many, that phrase rather, in so many contexts. Whereas really like the response part of it is really kind of the beginning. It's like the remediation, like what is happening in the response is what's more important. Like, and how can I do that quicker, faster, more accurately, confidently, et cetera. Like, and Tanium is very well suited to help with that part of it compared to a lot of the other technologies in the space that I see. But anyway, we should probably get wrapped up here. I think, getting to know you, looking at your background, you spent a lot of time kind of helping Tanium build out services, and now you're focused a little bit more on partners building out services. obviously that's good for us at CDI. I mean, that's a part of what we do, but I don't think we focus on services in a lot of areas at CDI because it's good for our business. I mean, obviously it is, but we believe that there are certain platforms where customers need a helping hand, and not necessarily just to get deployed, but also to continue kind of a journey with a platform like this. I'm guessing you agree based on the work that you've done for Tanium recently, but why is it particularly, do you think, valuable for customers to outsource to some experts like CDI to help with the optimization and continued value realization, let's say, of the Tanium platform?
I'm excited to be partnered with CDI. My focus is on helping our partners build up their services practices powered by Tanium. And the reason I'm excited is because about 4 years ago, I started our services practice at Tanium, because I realized that with a platform that covers operations, risk and compliance, security, and many more areas, it's a unique approach. And a lot of organizations just don't have that schema built to be able to handle that cross collaboration, that type of cross technology. And so what we saw was that if our customers purchase Tanium, they're making a big investment and a lot of trust in us. If they don't deploy it, they're not going to use it. And if they don't use it, they're not going to get value out of it. And if they don't get any value out of it, then they'll move on to the next tool. And I believe we have a great value proposition for our customers. So more importantly, I want our service partners like CDI to be able to take that expertise, to be able to go out and show and tell the story of Tanium, but more importantly, make that story their reality.
Yeah.
And it takes that expertise and that focus to be able to operationalize it, to be able to bring additional use cases in, to be able to fulfill those use cases and build out a complete operating model around that, where you may have a lot of fragmented skill sets and fragmented technologies, each operating in their own individual silo with their own individual practices.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine, if you will, a world where you've got an engineer that is cross-trained across operations, risk and compliance, and security. That engineer is going to have a lot more career opportunities. That organization is going to have a lot more efficiency, and they're going to have a lot more outcomes, which allows them to serve their customers better. And if we can help your customers make their customers successful, then all else will follow.
Agreed. I'd say, I mean, we've been partnered with Tanium and have done a lot of business together at CDI for a long time, many years. But we really, I'd say only in the last year and a half or so, realized this part of it, that we really need to have some services that help people to get started quickly with maybe a couple of use cases, a couple of very particular outcomes, but then also give them something that they're comfortable with, where we're not trying to replace their teams or anything like that, but just to be there for them, to help guide them in an ongoing kind of way. And that's really been the philosophy that I've been championing over the past year or so, to continue to evolve our services in that way. I think that's going to lead to, we like to say win-win-win. It's good for us, it's good for our partners, and it's most importantly good for our customers to really realize the value of their investments. So I guess in closing, kind of any sort of last comments, or certainly, maybe if we have some new viewers who are kind of new to Tanium and are interested here about some of our stuff, what would you recommend they do as sort of the next step?
Well, as a converged endpoint management platform, we really see this as an opportunity to meet at the junction of data and of tool sets and infrastructure, becoming the high-speed pipeline for all of your data, becoming the ability to see, manage, and control every device that you have out there. I would really encourage the viewers to contact your CDI account manager to talk to them about the possibilities, get a demo, get a POC going, and more importantly, trust this organization in the delivery of services, working very closely with this team on enablement, working on going to market together. I'm grateful for the trust that you've given us. We want to continue to grow and make your customers successful.
Great. Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate the time and appreciate the partnership in general. It's been a great ride for me and my colleagues who have been really focused on this recently. We're really excited about the future. Again, thanks for coming in from Montana, and I really appreciate it.
I'm very grateful for your time today, Brian. It's great to be out here, and thank you to the viewers.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Stay subscribed or liked or whatever our channels and things, and look for more interesting conversations like this in the near future.
Thank you.
The CDI CTO Podcast is brought to you by CDI, produced by Alyssa Hall and Spencer Grogan. To learn more about CDI, you can visit cdillc.com. The CDI CTO Podcast is a production of CDI Studios.